Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Friday, August 14th edition of the Fox Sports Fantasy 15 podcast and Google Hangout. I'm here with Darren Hartwell, NESN.com fantasy analyst. Before we get into some of the other fantasy stuff that we want to talk about today, rankings, things like that, Ameer Abdullah had a few runs last night. I think Todd Bowles compared him to Barry Sanders. People were drafting him in the 5th round before. What do you think? First round, first pick now for Ameer Abdullah?
Yep, I think just put him in the Hall of Fame right now. Might as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously that one run he had, that 50-yard run or whatever it was, pretty impressive. But it's the first game of the preseason. We'll see.
Yeah. It's funny. He's a guy I liked a lot when I watched video of him before the draft, and I said, "Hey, this is a guy who might be a little under the radar." As an under the radar pick, he was great, and he might get more production than Joyke Bell. And Bell was hurt in the offseason and all that. Problem now is the price is so high. We were talking before this started. He was top of the 5th round via ADP last I saw. He's just going to go up. So I mean, now he's up in the closer to the Gurley and Melvin Gordon territory, and not quite Lamar Miller, but up that way. So I mean, Carlos, would you take Ameer Abdullah over Carlos Hyde? That's a reach, but that's kind of the territory he's getting to.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's tough with rookie running backs. You never really know what you're going to get. And obviously Melvin Gordon's been one of the big names out there. I like him, or a more safe bet, like a second-year guy. I'd probably say Gordon's the one rookie running back I'm looking at. Obviously, Abdullah could do big things, but you have Joyke Bell there. You have obviously a loaded offense. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I'm gonna wait and see if he has maybe he has another 40-yard run in the next preseason game. Then maybe it's maybe you have to take him then. But
right, I think Abdullah thing is a month ago I would have loved to have him. Now I think the price is just going to be a little too high in drafts. Exactly. But oh well. All right. Since Darren's in Boston, I guess we got to talk Patriots.
Yes, we do.
And I'm sure you haven't talked about it much over the last month or 6 months or whatever it's been. So let's get after that. Tom Brady. Now, getting away from the did he or didn't he or any of that stuff. As a fantasy owner, what do we do now? Where do you think, first of all, if you had to guess, where do you think this suspension is going to wind up? 4 games, 0 games, something in the middle?
Well, first of all, it's pretty refreshing to be talking about Tom Brady's football prospects rather than his prospects in federal court or the Wells Report or any of that. But going back to that, from what it's looking like right now, it's either going to be 0 games or 4 games. It's going to be all or nothing. The way the NFL and the NFLPA aren't really seeing eye to eye. It's really tough to say at this point. It looks like it's leaning Brady's way that he could get off completely, but this has kind of been a surprise in the beginning in terms of Roger Goodell upholding the full 4-game suspension. I wouldn't be surprised. So I guess it's kind of a cop-out. I'd say I don't really know at this point. But in terms of a fantasy perspective, I think you have to lean towards he's going to be suspended for 4 games, err toward the side of caution. So with that said, I think obviously if you check out our rankings, we're pretty high on Brady, but I'd kind of temper expectations a little bit, especially with the possibility he could be out for 4 games. I think he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback, but kind of near the bottom of that top 10. So obviously he's going to be very well motivated. He has all the motivation in the world to come out and kick butt when he returns to the field. But I think there are other safer bets out there. I think he's more of a mid-round pick. I'd be more safe drafting a guy, maybe say Ben Roethlisberger, Tony Romo, that sort of crop than going after Brady. But what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, right now I've got him 12th. Just because of the 4-game, the missing 4 games is tough. I think you can get by with 4 games, but I would still rather. There's other guys I'd rather have. I've got him actually right behind Tannehill, just because of the suspension. If he gets the suspension lifted, I think I'd probably go up to 7 or 8. I think Roethlisberger, for instance, you named him, and he threw for almost 5,000 yards last year. That's going to be. I always joke, that's not my dad's Steelers. That is a high-flying offense. Mm-hmm. So I've got Brady. I'm debating on Brady, like I said, 12 now. I'd probably move him up to about maybe 8, maybe 7, depending on how the rest of the preseason goes, if the suspension gets lifted. Everybody, brief interruption. If you like this, you might be listening to this on a podcast. You might be watching it on Google Hangout. If you're listening, please subscribe on iTunes and SoundCloud because we love to have subscribers so we don't have to let you know exactly when these are ready. Also, we do them on Tuesdays and Fridays. Also, if you're on Twitter, Darren's at Darren_Hartwell. I'm at Halpin37. If you have any questions, draft strategy, stuff like that, Ameer Abdullah questions, we'd love to answer them. So please check us out there. All right. We're going to talk to Darren about some typical draft strategy stuff. It's the middle of August, first full preseason weekend is underway. And I checked out the NESN Fantasy Draft Guide is up at NESN.com. You did a lot of great stuff for that, by the way. There's just a ton of content. It's all really good. First up, you did a bust column. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Graham led off the bust column. Now, I'm looking at that, and I say, okay, Jimmy Graham wasn't coming off the year before. Maybe I could see that. Now, Jimmy Graham last year went 85 catches, 889 yards, 10 touchdowns. Do you think he slips further from that, or is that about where you find him?
Yeah, I could see maybe a slight drop off from that. To be honest, I mean we like to be liberal with the term bust. You know, it's basically based on what he's projected. Fall a little bit. I just think that Seahawks offense. I don't know. I don't remember the last time we've had a 1,000-yard receiver out of the Seahawks or a big time production. Russell Wilson's really coming into his own, but he also is a threat to run, and Marshawn Lynch is in the backfield too. This is still a run-first, defensive-oriented team. Obviously, they have big plans for Jimmy Graham if they're bringing him in, but I just don't think that it's Drew Brees to Jimmy Graham, dunking all field goal posts, all that. I don't think that's in the cards this year.
Where do you have Graham ranked among your tight ends?
He's still the second best tight end, I think, right behind Gronk. So,
right.
So I think, obviously, he's the best tight end out there besides Gronk. But I'm seeing some people taking, second round, maybe in late first round. I would wait a little bit more. I'd say he's more of a third or fourth rounder just because of his new environment, the new offense that he's on.
All right, next up, your running back rankings. Adrian Peterson is first. We're going to debate this a little bit. Adrian Peterson is not. I think I have him 7th.
Okay.
I have him out of my first round. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, Adrian Peterson, a lot of people doubted him that year after he got the ACL, the nasty ACL injury, and he went on to have one of the best seasons and running back has ever had in the NFL. This is a little different, obviously, but I think there's something to be said for a motivation factor for missing a whole season and being able to rest up and train and get healthy. This is still an offense that revolves around him. Teddy Bridgewater's second-year quarterback. He's shown some progress, but still, they're going to want to feed Peterson. They have a decent offensive line, decent enough to where I think if Adrian Peterson gets, 20 carries a game, 30 carries a game, he could do big things. Obviously, they have Jerick McKinnon there to spell him a little bit, but this is still Peterson's offense. It looks like, all that contract stuff is in the past, all the ugly stuff of the offseason is in the past. He's going to focus on football, and I think he could do big things.
All right. Yeah, I always like to say I'd rather get off a guy a year too early than a year too late.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at him and I'm going, he's 30 years old. He's over 2,000 carries and he missed a year. I mean, I'm not saying, the guy's going to you forget him, but just that price is too high. The top half of the first round for me with those risks. Like I look at Lynch and I go, there's no risks.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's always a running back injury risk, but Jamal Charles, I go, no issues, no nothing. Peterson, I look at those things and I go, I don't know. One of us is going to be right, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
Find out.
All right. Next up, Arian Foster. I checked your rankings. I think you published them Monday.
Yep.
You've got Arian Foster at number 17 at running back. What kind of absence does that assume? Now, I know we don't know what's going to happen with Arian Foster because there's conflicting reports. Some people said like week 9 or 10. Then others say, well, it might be 4 to 6 weeks from now. What are you saying? At 17, are you guessing a shorter or the short end, long end, or maybe something in the middle for Foster's absence?
Yeah, I think as of now we're going on the basis that he'll miss roughly half of the season, roughly miss the first 8 games or so. So I think just as good as Foster is, if you're missing the first half of the season, you're not getting a guy till week 9, something like that, and you only have 5 or 6 games left in your fantasy season as you go down the stretch. Obviously, Foster is one of the best running backs in fantasy when he's on the field, but that's been a huge issue. That's been a huge issue for him in the past. I actually look at a guy like Alfred Blue to be kind of a sleeper pick now. He's looks like he's going to be ready to take over that feature back role. So again, with Foster, given his history, there's a lot of injury concerns out there. He's missing what you think will be the first 8 games of the season. So I think that's a reason enough to drop him. Obviously, he's still in the top 20 given his track record, given how well he performs when he's healthy. But I think you got to put him there.
Yeah, I think I've got Foster. I wound up drafting Foster last week. I got him in the 7th round of a draft, that's because I thought the absence was shorter. That morning, it was the day after his surgery, and I started reading things like, "Hey, he might not miss as much time as we thought." And I was at top of the 7th round. I would have rather had him 8th, but I was picking at the bottom of the 8th. So I sat there and I needed a running back, and I went, you know what? If he's only out 3 weeks, this is a gamble. But I've actually got Foster 29th because I don't know where to put him because of the injury. I want to hear more. I hope we know soon. But if I drafted him now, like I said, I wound up in the 7th, and I was okay with that. But we'll just keep watching this. He's one of those guys who I think is going to be a moving target during August for fantasy drafts. And you did a sleeper article. You have Isaiah Crowell in there. Now, his ADP is about 70 right now, which is end of the 6th. I feel like people are forgetting about him. Because when you watched him last year, he looked really good. And I feel like Duke Johnson came in. Terrence West, like they don't even talk about Terrence West anymore. But Duke Johnson's there, and everybody is so excited about Duke Johnson and the OTAs. He looked great. And I feel like fantasy owners are like, yeah, Crowell, whatever. He looked really good last year, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And he kind of emerged from that. I mean, they really gave everyone a chance to take over that Browns backfield. They gave West carries, and then Crowell kind of stepped up near the end of the season. He had a few big games, and I just don't see the Browns going for a rookie running back, no matter how talented he is, over a guy like Crowell, who proved last year that he can handle those duties. Obviously, it's not a very large sample size, but I think, like you said, given the low ADP, he's the kind of guy that you want to target. A lead back in any sort of offense, especially the Browns. Not strong at the quarterback position. They're going to give him a lot of carries if he's the guy. So I think there's potential there.
Yeah, if you do something like the zero running back theory or something like that, and go heavy wide receiver heavy first, which I did in the draft last week. Crowell's a guy you can get at your RB2, and there's some risk there, and there's some committee issues there potentially, but he's a nice runner as long as he doesn't fumble. Last year he fumbled. He got in trouble with his coach, but hopefully he can hang on to the ball. Another sleeper, deeper here, Cody Latimer. Last year, he was drafted, and a lot of people thought, hey, Cody Latimer, he could be a nice sleeper in that offense. And then I guess there was stuff like, he basically admitted later, I had trouble keeping up with things. I didn't understand the playbook right away. He was a rookie, and he wasn't keeping up, and there's no room for that in Peyton's offense. You think this guy's going to step up?
Yeah, I think the door is certainly open. It's just quite obviously, like you said, it's a question of whether you can step through it. But if he can, that you're in Peyton Manning's offense. Emmanuel Sanders is, they lost Julius Thomas, so it's kind of Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, and then Cody Latimer kind of slides into that 3 role. We saw Emmanuel Sanders as the number 3 wide receiver last year, put up monster numbers. So, the opportunity is there. Whether he'll do something with it is another story. But if you're in the later rounds in your draft, you want to take a flyer on a guy, I think he's kind of a low risk and a high reward guy.
All right. Last guy I want to talk about. I like Latimer too. He's one of those guys. The good thing about him is you can get him really late. Yeah. Your last round, you want a 5th receiver, and there's some upside there. And that's what late rounds like that, you should be swinging for the fences more than playing it safe. You don't need Dwayne Bowe catching 60 passes for 750 yards for you, because it doesn't really help you much.
0 touchdowns.
Yeah, it doesn't help you win a week ever. Yeah. So, all right. Last one up, Ryan Tannehill. You have Ryan Tannehill at QB 15. I've got him at 11. I think in our scoring, Fox scoring, he was 11 last year. I feel like with that offense, I think he's going to get better. And I think the thing is, with the high volume of plays there, it just increases his chances to put up numbers. From a basic standpoint, why don't you like Ryan Tannehill seemingly as much as other people?
Well, I think Tannehill, the potential is always there with Tannehill. He'll have like a 3 touchdown game, 0 interceptions, and then he'll have a 1 touchdown, 1 interception game. I think he's progressing. He's trending in the upward direction. I'm not seeing him turn the corner just yet. Another thing to watch out for, I think there's some pretty good defenses in the AFC East. With the Buffalo Bills, they're going to have one of the best defenses, at least one of the most talented defenses in the NFL. Jets are always strong, at least in the front 7, rushing the quarterback. So I think that's something to watch. He'll play both of those teams two times a year, and then the Patriots, depleted secondary a little bit, but they still can hold their own. So obviously, I'm not no knock on Tannehill. I think he's definitely in that middle range. I just wouldn't put him kind of close to the top 10 and 11. I'd drop him a little bit.
All right. Darren, please, before we sign off, tell everybody about the draft guide at NESN.com and what other fantasy stuff they can start looking for soon.
Yeah, no, we went live with our draft kit on Monday. As you said, we have all the rankings, cheat sheets if you need them, and we have some draft day tips and do's and don'ts. The most ideal position to draft in the first round, whether you want to be in that 1 or 2 slot or whether you want to be in the middle rounds. So that's all up. And then once the regular season gets rolling, we'll have waiver wire pickups, we'll have sits and starts, and we'll also be doing our own podcast over on NESN.com. So yeah, make sure you head over there and check it all out.
Yeah, as I said in the beginning, it looked really good. I read a bunch of the stuff last night, so really nice job on that. All right, everybody. We have got lots of stuff for you at foxsports.com/fantasy. If you want to join a league, start a league, whatever it might be, you can do it right now for free. foxsports.com/fantasy. Also, our football draft guide and preview stuff. I mean, our rankings are there. Team previews, lots of strategy articles, stuff like that. Please go check it out. These podcasts also, Tuesday and Friday, will be prepping you for your fantasy drafts. You can subscribe to the Fantasy 50 on both iTunes and SoundCloud. That's going to wrap it up for today. We're going to be back with another podcast on Tuesday. Thanks a lot to Darren Hartwell from NESN.com for joining us. Darren, thanks. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, bud?
All right. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and thank you again for listening to the Fox Fantasy 15.